Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. When was a moment when you thought to yourself, yep, I'm gonna die, but then you survived with no major injury? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Trailer house fire when I was 11. I couldn't see anything. The air was burning my skin and lungs, and all I could think about was getting to my siblings, and only then was I allowed to die. I fell through the floor and managed to escape out the side of the crawl space. Had first and second degree burns all over my body. Felt like severe sunburn, but nothing majorly impacting my life. Everyone survived, and firefighters even revived my parakeet with oxygen. Serious respect for firefighters. I was stopped at an intersection, looked up in my rearview mirror and saw a car coming for me and not slowing down. It was about the longest second of my life between when I saw them and when they hit me, and I watched helplessly out the front window as I pushed into oncoming traffic. I was absolutely sure I was going to be killed, but then everything had stopped, and I was just sitting there with accidents all around me. The woman who hit me actually got out of her car and ran over to my window and yelled, "Are you alive?" Which was a stupid question to ask, but at the same time, I honestly wasn't sure that I was. In my student years 2000, I jumped in a supermarket trolley and let it roll from a steep, narrow road 100 meters long. At the end was a metal fence. I did not see it when I jumped in, and when I saw it, it was too late. I could not slow it down, and speeding up really fast. I was sure I'll break everything in my body, so I just let it happen. When the trolley hit the fence, it just hit, and that was that. I don't feel pain. It was so weird. Nothing happened. Just a big bang, and that's all. My friend that was running to me was also really shocked that it turned out fine. It really should not happen like this. 3 months ago, I fell over a tiny rock and broke my elbow. Back when I was 18 or 19, I went to a dermatologist to get some treatment for mild psoriasis, but the office had a policy that all new patients were to submit to a full-body inspection. I almost walked out when I was told, but my dad convinced me to stay. The doctor ended up finding 2 spots on my back that he was concerned about. He did a biopsy and sent me on my way. Sometime later, we get a call that I had a melanoma, skin cancer. At that moment, I thought, well, I guess I'm going to be dead soon. A couple of weeks later, I went in for a surgery, and he cut 2 big chunks of meat out of my back. He told me he was cutting out more than he needed to, so he could be sure he got all the cancerous material. After some testing, it was confirmed that all of it was removed before it spread throughout my body. Had to go back every 3 months for a couple of years after that and continually get full body checks. He told me that if I hadn't come in to get my psoriasis treated, I would have been dead within 2 years. Thank you, psoriasis. There was one other time, back in maybe 2010-ish, I got into a motorcycle accident. I was riding with a group of friends, and one of them suddenly stopped in the middle of the road in front of me. I jammed on the brakes right as I was passing through a patch of dirt or sand on the road, which is like a patch of ice on a motorcycle. My bike kind of kicked sideways and threw me off. As I was flying through the air like Superman, I remember thinking I was going to die. Landed on my shoulder and went rolling down the street. Luckily, my helmet absorbed the blow my skull would have taken. It was broken after. Had some road rash, and my shoulder gave me problems for a while after that, but I was otherwise unhurt. Got checked out by an EMT who happened to be a friend. Probably should have gone to the hospital, but I didn't want to spend the entire rest of my night sitting around in a waiting room. I guess it was great that you went and had your psoriasis looked at, and I'm glad you're okay. That's pretty scary, so good job. I was 16 out with my cousin who was 18. It was like 2 or 3 a.m. We were down by a local river. Had this great idea to borrow a boat and go across the river and back. The river is used a lot for huge barges to transport to a local port. Stupid me said, sure, as long as the boat is back before sunup, nobody will notice. Got across okay. On the way back, we caught a wave behind a barge and the boat turned over. So we drug the boat back across the river, swimming with it in almost complete darkness. Got the boat back and turned back right. No damage, thank God. All before the sun started to come up. Still have no clue how we made it back without anyone getting hurt or killed. I found out either the Sons tried this, I'd kill them. but I sure as hell did it with my best bud by my side. When I was younger, I took a ballistic snowmobile straight to the noggin. Instead of smashing my head like a melon as it should have, it just left a small dent in my skull. Due to that incident, I learned I have some kind of genetic condition that make my bones super strong. Did you hear about the war in Ukraine? I'm sure you did. On the first day of war, my parents and I had the wonderful idea to go on one of the most dangerous places. I don't know why, but we thought it would be safer there than in the capital. I had too many thoughts that I was going to die right now several times a day. Every day, rockets flew into neighboring houses. Whole streets burned. But miraculously, me, my parents, and my two wonderful animals got out of that hell alive. When I had COVID before vaccines were available, there was a day I was certain was my last. My partner, who had just recovered from his fight with it before the exhaustion took me down, brought me water and toast, helped me eat and drink some, and was there. I just kind of accepted that it was the end and appreciated he was with me as I drift off to death. Woke up sometime the next day and was shocked to be alive. Edit. Y'all keep these stories coming. Damn, we're lucky we came through. I'll add my boyfriend and I just celebrated our 4-year anniversary. We started dating just before lockdown. I quit smoking at the same time because I knew if I caught COVID and smoked, it would definitely kill me, and I didn't want to smoke around them. It's one of the worst illnesses I've ever experienced. Proud Midwesterner here. A few years ago in Iowa, we had a pretty severe derecho that lost most of the power in the state for over a week and oddly did not really make national news. I sent my family to the basement when the alarm started going off, but of course, due to my heritage and lack of more than one brain cell, I stayed upstairs in the living room watching from a gigantic bar-type window. When the actual derecho hit, I saw something like 5 instantaneously go down, and what looked like a wall of death and wind and water coming straight for me. I remember thinking clearly, this is how I die. But we were situated at the beginning of this derecho before it became super powerful. I'll never forget that feeling though. If you've ever felt that, you know what I mean. So many. At 9, I fell 15 feet under a waterfall, sheer walls on both sides, boulder-strewn rapids downstream. It was early spring and the water was ice cold, and nobody was answering my screams for help. I knew I was a goner. I didn't get back out quick. I managed to climb one of the walls by finding cracks. At 15, was target plinking with my best friend on the way back home and he pointed with a shotgun to my head as a joke. I angrily grabbed the barrel away and yelled at him. He said, "Hey, it's empty, see?" and pulled the trigger. It was not empty. At 22, was swimming from a boat to a small island, got caught in a current. By the time I realized I wasn't moving, I was unable to get back to the boat. I was seconds away from slipping under. Only reimagining that single lesson on back floating as a kid saved me. I was able to rest until my arms worked again. At 39, my brakes failed while going down a steep hill with a T intersection at the bottom. On the other side of the road at the T was a very steep drop-off. At 30 miles per hour, I figured hitting that fence sideways would spread the impact out enough I wouldn't fly over or through the fence and down the hill. So I went for following the optimum line for a right angle turn, knowing at least I'd live through when I was hit with the fence. That goddamned Mazda Protege made me frickin' turn like a boss, which still seems impossible. Right around the same time, I was at work late at night and heard a car alarm going off as I walked to the bathroom. I'm a creature of habit, but this one time I did not pull my massive keychain out after zipping up, and instead just headed back to my office. As I rounded the hallway corner, a cop 10 feet away had his gun pointed at my face and yelled, "Freeze!" which I did. He was overweight, sweating like a leaf. His hands were visibly shaking so bad, and the panic was clear on him. am 100% sure that if I'd had my shiny metal keys in the right hand as I rounded the corner, I'd not be writing this. That's all I got so far. Once, while driving a rear-wheel drive car with lots of horsepower, I was driving to pick up my daughter and the weather turned, snow, slick highway. I was cruising along when the car got loose. I tried to save it, but spun 3 to 4 times on the highway before sliding down a steep embankment. I remember thinking, oh shit, this is how I go. Thankfully, the hill was slick, the car was heavy and low to the ground, and I just slid. It seemed like forever, until I came to stop. I figured my car was totaled and that I was nowhere from home. People called 911 and they were expecting a family. I get out of the car, walked up the snowy hill, and met the highway patrol. Thank goodness for his warm car. It took a long cable to winch it out. Took it to a local truck stop. I pulled the front end fender out, put on the spare, and drove it home. I was even able to have the original tire remounted. No injuries other than my pride. Once I was run over by a car. They passed over my legs. It could have been my chest or my head, but I was lucky. I stood up right after and picked up my trainer that was 3 meters away. Then I fell off. I ended up with a strain, back pain from where the car hit initially, and walking with crutches for a bit over a month, but I recovered with no major consequence. I was at a state fair and the safety harness failed on one of the rides. I wrapped my arms around the bar and held on for dear life. There was a large woman next to me who fell into me when the ride would go sideways and press me further towards all the gears and whatnot in the middle. Thought for sure I was dead. I complained to the managers and they blew me off, acted like I overreacted and basically asked me to leave. F fairs and their unsafe bullshit rides. I went to a lecture at university. The room that would usually fit 30 people was packed with about 90. Chairs cramped everywhere, all entrances but one of the front blocked. I was sitting in the very back about 30 minutes into the lecture. We heard weird noises from above as the ceiling in the back of the room started to give in. When realization hit, it was a millisecond of I'm dead, to my survival instinct kicking in. Rows of chairs and crowds of people in front of me, the only escape in the very front. I still have no real collection or recollection of how I made it out of that room, just snippets. Afterwards, my legs were completely bruised, likely from jumping over and into the way of too many chairs. Remarkably, everyone must have moved at the same speed. Everyone got out in time and no one was trapped. Motorcycle accident. Cruising in the right lane, truck pulling a trailer in the left lane tried to pass me in order to make an exit and sideswiped me at an admitted 85 miles per hour. Took a long tumble, separated from the bike, bounced off an overpass guardrail, while all the cars entering the interstate managed to dodge me as a blind obstacle just added or accelerating up to speed. Terrible place to be laid out from an accident. It was a bright, sunny afternoon with no inclement conditions, but some ass just had to get around me to make his exit instead of waiting behind me. Driver admitted to speeding and begins and being on his cell phone, which is a crime here, and the responding officer didn't even try to ticket him for it. EMS took 40 minutes to reach me. Driver nearly killed me, and he got off with an improper lane usage ticket. Cop was an asshole and didn't buy my story. My hip is totally effed up from the accident, but I survived, which is more than the conditions would typically allow. Simply got lucky. The bike was totaled, all my gear ruined except for a horsehide jacket. Wear your gear, everyone. So somehow, and this was about 2 or 3 days ago, I went to the supermarket, was driving out of the parking lot, and a wall of what looked like fog just appeared, like I couldn't see anything. I looked up, my windows were shut and all the way closed, and I saw a giant fire coming down a building and towards me. Now my dog died about 2 months ago, so it's very fresh to me, and he obviously meant a lot to me, but was ready to go. I was thinking I was ready to die, because I couldn't get out of where I was, and so many cars and buildings were blocking, nor could I. I didn't even plan on moving hostilely. A police ended up coming into my view and directing me and my car out of the fire and smoke. It was not a dog, but smoke. Fire literally came out of nowhere and was engulfing everything. Both my car and I were okay, but that was a pretty close scrape, I'd say. The boat I was wakeboarding behind was bringing me the rope back after a fall. It was way too choppy to be out there, and before I knew it, the boat went over on top of me. As I waited for the boat to pass over, I heard the propeller was still going. Last thing I remember was foot being sucked into the prop and taking my last breath underwater before I drowned. Miraculously, my board got jammed in the prop, and I shot out of the back, puking and screaming. I have two. One, the first was when I was maybe 12 or 13 years old. I grew up in South Louisiana, so we did some backwater bullshit to entertain ourselves. My dad and uncle tied a very long rope with one side way up in a tree and the other tied to a four-wheeler. Me, my brother, and my cousin all held onto the rope near the tree, and my dad would drive forward, raising us up in the air, and then he'd let off the gas, and the four-wheeler would roll back slowly, lowering us to the ground. We did this quite a few times, each time raising up no more than 5 feet or so off the ground. The last time we did it, my brother and cousin let go at the same time, and I was flung up into the air. According to my dad, uncle, and grandma, I went up about 20 feet higher than the house. I remembered them dropping and feeling like I got launched from a bow. My feet went up in the air. I was completely upside down. I just gripped and closed my eyes, figuring that if this was it, that was it. I knew I had no control over what was going to happen, but damn if I didn't manage to hold on. I finally landed back on the ground, having never let go of the rope, but when I did, I started bawling. My grandpa said it was the scariest day of his life, lol. 2. The other was when I was a senior in high school. I was late leaving for school, and it was a gross rainy day. I was waiting to leave my dad's neighborhood in my car. I looked left and right, and I thought I had an opening. Turns out the traffic light down the road to my left had changed, and an SUV sped off the line about 5 miles over the limit. I pulled out of the road, then looked left and saw the grill of the SUV about 5 feet from my car. I had a split second to react, so I hit the gas to get out of the way. I didn't manage to get totally out of the way, but I did end up getting hit right in the middle of the left side of the car instead of the dead on the driver's door. My car was so wrecked that people expected me to be messed up. My hair was found in the grill of the other car, and the door was so crushed they had to pull me out with the other. Both left side windows were broken, and there was glass everywhere. When I asked my friend to get my homework for me later in the day, she told me multiple teachers saw my car, though, and someone must have died within an hour how it looked. I came out with a concussion and like 3 stitches in my eyebrow, but otherwise, that I was completely fine.